Thanks for giving us the opportunity to speak on the Plant-Based Treaty Initiative. The idea of the Plant-Based Treaty Initiative came about a year ago when we met with Sephora Berman, who's the chair of the Fossil Fuel Non-Proliferation Treaty. We asked her, how do we get animal agriculture on the global agenda? And she talked about the Fossil Fuel Treaty. And the Plant-Based Treaty was launched in August of last year with a brand new website and social media accounts. And almost 100 cities worldwide took actions on the day of the launch. Almost immediately, 2 cities endorsed the treaty, Rosario, the 3rd largest city in Argentina, and Boynton Beach in Florida. This year we obtained UN observer status. We were in Glasgow, we're going to Egypt. We were at the Bonn conference, so the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change's secretariat is in Bonn, so every year they meet in Bonn in June between the COPs. And we had a food truck there parked right in front of the entrance and gave out 2,000 vegan sausages and had a position paper where we highlighted the IPCC argument that the vegan diet is the optimal diet. So please go to our website to download that position paper. This is my favorite slide from the IPCC. It shows that the vegan diet, if everyone went vegan, we would save 8 gigatons of carbon equivalent per year. If people became climate carnivores, people concerned with eating less red meat to reduce their emissions, it would only save 3 gigatons. And this is only greenhouse gas emissions, doesn't count land use. If you count land use, the numbers would more than double for a vegan diet. So this is the IPCC 2019 report called Climate Change and Land Use. The IPCC relies heavily on Joseph Poore and Nemesic's study where they looked at 40,000 farms in 119 countries covering 40 food products that represent 90% of all that's eaten. And what they found in their assessment from farm to fork in terms of land use, climate change emissions, freshwater use and water pollution, eutrophication, and air pollution, acidification, was that the importance of moving towards a plant-based diet. And they found that animal farmers provide just 18% of the calories, but take up 83% of the farmland. And Joseph Poore said, a vegan diet is probably the single biggest way to reduce your impact on planet Earth, not just greenhouse gases, but global acidification, eutrophication, land use, and water use. The Plant-Based Treaty draws on the science, and the science is unequivocal. It says the vegan diet is the optimal diet. It's not, bigger cages, it's not animal welfare, it's a vegan diet is the optimal diet if we're serious about the climate emergency. So taking that into account, the Plant-Based Treaty, again, replicating the Fossil Fuel Treaty. The Fossil Fuel Treaty says phase out fossil fuels. They don't say, let's do better with our fossil fuels. They actually say, phase out fossil fuels, let's go to soft energy. We should not have a different standard when it comes to animal agriculture. No exceptionalism for animal agriculture. So we have a bottom-up campaign with the idea that, again, replicating the Fossil Fuel Treaty, that we need to create bottom-up pressure for countries to negotiate a global agreement to shift to a plant-based food system that will live so that we can live within our planetary boundaries. So again, replicating the Fossil Fuel Treaty, our goal for 2023 is to get 1 million individuals to sign, 10,000 groups, 10,000 businesses, 50 cities. 2023 is an important year because the UN takes a global stock take on the Paris Accords and then resets its targets. So it's pretty simple. You go to our website, go to our homepage, plantbasedtreaty.org, and you can sign up as an individual, group, business, or city. And so far we have over 50,000 individuals that have signed. We have over 300 politicians. We have political parties across the political spectrum. We have a couple of communist parties in Italy. We have the Green Party in the Netherlands that endorsed. We have the vegan conservatives in the UK that endorsed. And we have a variety of Party for Animals that have endorsed. In terms of celebrities, worldwide we've had celebrity support to help us spread the message and attract media attention. An exciting endorsement came through at the start of COP27 in Glasgow when Sir Paul, Mary, and Stella McCartney issued a written statement calling for politicians to support the Plant-Based Treaty. They said, we believe in justice for animals, the environment, and people. That's why we support the Plant-Based Treaty and urge individuals and governments to sign it. Moby has been very supportive. He issued a video statement backing the treaty, and he said, we face a climate catastrophe and especially a methane emergency. Have group endorsers. The treaty is gaining support from vegan groups as well as environmental groups, including chapters from Greenpeace, Friends of the Earth, and Extinction Rebellion. We have LGBTQ community supporting it, student groups. We have 900 businesses, Linda McCarthy Foods, Happy Cow, Rara Foods, VDOG. We also have groups outside the vegan community like Ecotricity, Ethical Tea Company, Rothschild Fine Arts. I wanted to talk a bit about the climate science just before we talk about the 3 R's of the Plant-Based Treaty, because it's so important to understand the science. There were 3 IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, assessment reports released between 2021 and 2022. The science report was released last August, last year, and was described by the UN Secretary General as Code Red for Humanity. And this is the most important point I want to get across. Even if we ended fossil fuels today, the food system alone would send us over 1.5 degrees warming. And that's the upper limit that the Paris Accord set. These are some of the key findings that we have been sharing with politicians to help them understand how animal agriculture contributes to the climate emergency and to encourage them to support the Plant-Based Treaty. We encourage you to share these facts with your city and country politicians. If we continue business as usual, we are on track to reach 1.5 degrees Celsius around 2030 and 2 degrees Celsius by 2040, which would be catastrophic. There is a 50% chance of reaching 1.5 degrees Celsius in the next 5 years. All greenhouse gases have reached a record high, and they are accelerating each year, accelerating fast. So we're not even maintaining our level of emissions, they're accelerating. Methane in particular is a major concern, as it is the most potent greenhouse gas, but it's short-lived. So if we address it, we can help stop heading for tipping points. According to the IPCC, we have a methane emergency. Did you know that animal agriculture is the largest source of human-caused methane emissions, contributing a whopping 32%? A very scary fact that most people don't know is that the 2021 UN methane assessment report says that we need to cut methane by 45% by 2030, otherwise we will exceed 1.5 degrees warming. So the opposite's happening now. We're accelerating in terms of emissions. So what Last said about this is a crucial decade is absolutely true. All the science to support an urgent shift of plant-based food system is in the 3,000 plus page IPCC reports, which some people have as bedside reading. It is our responsibility to get the scientific information to policymakers. We know it's challenging to get people to read the the lengthy IPCC reports. Greta Thunberg, a child, reads them, so I think it's the onus is on us to read it as well. Why we highly recommend, if that's not possible, recommend George Monbiot's latest book, Regenesis, Feeding the World Without Devouring the Planet. George Monbiot communicates soil and climate science in an accessible way through engaging storytelling and jargon-free language. Monbiot's Regenesis is a rescue package for this decade. It's a book that opens up pathways to change the world, and we should make it our mission to have as many people as possible read the book. He says land use is the most important of all environmental issues. This is mainly due to agricultural sprawl, using large amounts of land, pesticides, fertilizers, and animal farming to produce small amounts of food. Please, can everyone read this epic book? It will shape your advocacy. If you're short on time, you can get the audiobook, which is dramatically narrated by George Monbiot. The BBT offers tools, resources, and strategies for action in your city. So I'm just going to talk about the 3R principles. Again, we copied the fossil fuel treaty and were able to launch this campaign within 4 months after we met with Sephora. So the first principle is don't make the problem worse, relinquish. It's about stopping the problem from getting worse by halting any new greenhouse gas emissions and land use change from animal agriculture. More specifically, no new deforestation, no new animal farms, including marine farms for fishes and other sea life, no new slaughterhouses. The second principle is redirect. This means a shift away from agriculture to a fair and accessible plant food system, which Last so eloquently talked about. This would include policy tools such as redirecting subsidies, taxes, and public information campaigns away from animal farming to plant-based agriculture. And thirdly, restore is about healing the planet and restoring carbon sinks. This includes rewilding of forests, peatlands, and mangroves, returning lands to indigenous peoples, and creating organic community gardens and orchards to ensure a fair and accessible food system. And this is just a summary of the overall campaign, with the grand strategic objective being to develop a plant-based food system that would enable us to live within our planetary boundaries. And as you can see under the 3 R's, you can have hundreds of campaigns. And some of the campaigns we've launched under Don't Make the Problem Worse or Relinquishes Stop Octopus Farming. There's a plan in Spain to open a huge facility in the Canary Islands, for example. So the next thing I'd like to talk about are just our campaigns. How do we implement this? So cities have substantial jurisdiction over greenhouse gas emissions, and they historically have been more responsive to resident pressure. And typically, for other global agreements, it often starts at the bottom up. So for the ozone protection agreement, the state of Oregon banned aerosols in 1977. 10 years later, there was a global convention, the Vienna Convention and the Montreal Protocol, to ban chlorofluorocarbons and other ozone-depleting gases. Cities are highly impacted, as you know, by climate change. Majority of people live in cities. A lot of cities are by the water, so they are vulnerable to sea level rise, flooding. So this is when we were in Glasgow. We had our inflatable cow, endorsed the plant-based treaty, and that's the conference center in the background. And this is what would happen if there was a 3 degrees warming in terms of sea level rise for Glasgow. And you can mirror that around the world. So councillors and council members are part of your local community and easy to reach. Many towns and cities have influence and jurisdiction over food served in schools, hospitals, prisons, and care facilities, as well as street festivals and city catered events and meetings. So far, 18 cities have endorsed the plant-based treaty, 14 in India, and most recently Buenos Aires, a C40 city, Hayward's Heath in the UK became the first European city to endorse. How did this happen? Well, we find politicians, like in each jurisdiction it's different. So in India, our campaigner connects one-on-one with a mayor, who then refers her and her team to other mayors. So it's not as democratic process as what would have to happen in Toronto. In the UK, Hayward's Heath endorsement was led by a vegan councillor with the support of another Green Party councillor, while the town clerk championed and offered valuable advice to help it get through the bureaucracy. In Glastonbury, we're working with a vegan mayor and a council led by Green Party council members. In LA, a lobbyist connected with 2 council members who put forward a motion for the city of LA to endorse the PBT. This is important to us because LA is also a C40 city. We're currently meeting with New York City borough presidents. So we met with Manhattan's last week and also with Queens borough president's advisor. So we just do Zoom calls and we're able to and they're very, very interested in this because Queens is very vulnerable to sea level rise. In the UK, we're reaching out to 56 vegan councillors who have endorsed the treaty out of 200 councillors. Not everybody who endorsed the treaty is vegan. It's not a vegan treaty. It's about everybody just understanding that food emissions need to be dealt with. So a lot of the politicians who endorse it are omnivores, and the political parties and the cities who endorse are not vegan, but they understand that this is the solution. So this is basically the plan that we have when we have a city campaign. We set up a PBT group. We have an automatic email letter that goes out, and I gave Varun, who's our digital media director, copies to give out. So you could actually send an email letter to your councillors or council members if you're in the US. And to summarize, we organize seed giveaways, community gardens, direct action, online activism, celebrity engagement. We distribute information guides, I gave you some already, and lobby politicians. Join us at our next Friday introductory call, where we help people around the world set up new PBT teams and campaigns for their city to endorse the treaty as part of a response to the climate emergency. You can fill out a dedicated PBT team form on the website. Thank you very much.